bitch, I'm about to take a mini bomb flights. I'm about to take a mini bomb. 6 a.m. till it's 10 o'clock. Lot of miles walking out to the tippy top. Gotta go out on the demo to take the efficient class. I was looking at the world's technology before it was an internet. And my life was a movie, motherfucker. You know I'ma need the biggest set. No, I ain't Kevin Gates, but I don't get tired, bitch. Fuck getting dressed. Even when I'm in the rain, I don't really mind getting wet. The plan be up in a plane, or an aircraft, or in a jet. You was just wanting to change, doing anything to get a jet. You was just wanting to fame, but now you only about to get depressed. So having your hopes up too high, forgive if my bitch was you high, forgive me all those 1, 2 lies. You got you a confused mind, you should go up by the water, so you can get a clear thought. When you were walking on water, they was talking about my spirit art, angry, my vision quits my sight is getting better. Luckily my heart is lighter than a better. Yeah, bitch, I gotta take a thing wild. Yeah, bitch, I gotta take a thing wild. Bitch, I'm higher than a kite that didn't sever. The Pilotman can fly like you any weather. Yeah, bitch, I gotta take a thing wild. Yeah, bitch, I gotta take a thing wild. Everything that I see on this realm is evil. Yeah, the whole Bible it was talk about other people. Let another bone be right down. Your hands straight to yourself is where you better keep them. Yeah, you better be aware. Nobody goes around this now. Ain't nobody gonna be around you. Dirty dog when you down and out. Life is like a merry-go-round. That the carnival going round and round. I ain't talking about the summer. I'ma be the reason why ain't no clouds around. I'm a man, baby. You haven't met you an angel, but you think the Taliban crazy. Yeah. Turning hot potatoes, get some mashed potatoes, not the band crazy. Eating everything in my path, but you look like the cookie mountain. You know, I don't really think you from this planet either when you be with your eyes closed. All this and beings living by the water, gonna get big as headlights. Ohio in America, homie, I'ma see that you in the hell. Listen, I'm right in the cemetery. I don't either gotta rinse it off. God gonna do everything for me. All I gotta do is make me wrong. My vision quest my sight is getting better. Definitely my heart is lighter than a feather. Yeah, bitch, I gotta take a thing wild. Yeah, bitch, I gotta take a thing wild. Bitch, I'm higher than a kite that didn't sever. The Pilotman can fly like the any weather. Bitch, I gotta take a thing wild. Yeah, bitch, I gotta take a thing wild.
Oh, now let's talk about it. Cause you know it's like now your spirit walking up some steps inside of your. You know what I'm saying? Like look at it like if your mind was a world itself that's connected to your physical flesh, because it condense and become that. Then if you look at that like a territory, right? Certain sounds that take you upstairs. You know what I'm saying? Take you to the upper room and stuff like that. You ain't gotta die. You ain't got to transition or whatever the case may be. But you can know what it means to transition, and you can know what it means to be in that little process, to harness that experience so you never let it go, so you always know when you're making a ghost. Let's talk about it. We can talk about Kevin Spacey. What's that? We can talk about Whoopi. We can talk about Whoopi. Whoopi! We can talk about Whoopi. We can talk about Kevin Spacey. What's that? And we ain't talk about the other person. You know what I'm saying? Just know you gonna understand what it means to be a ghost. A lot of y'all already ghosts, a lot of y'all surrounded by ghosts, a lot of y'all are lost, and a lot of y'all are found. But this is gonna be able to put you in a situation where you can compare and contrast, you can decipher, you can create the dichotomy, you can realize if you the lost one or you the found one. Here's the thing, you could be found on false pretense, knowledge, knowledge, think you know everything, don't know nothing. For the most part, you're not found. You're just found within a lost realm. For the most part, those will be representations and experiences that you have based upon needing a title or a badge for you to represent what you think your spiritual I is. You don't believe in the spirit. You just believe in my flesh, my brain, my title, my age, my time, my brain. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, you don't anything spiritual, but for the most part, where you come from? I came out my mother. Where did that come from? She was thinking. All right, there we go. You came from thinking first. You ain't come to flesh and then you start thinking. You came from thinking first, then came to the flesh. Learn the operation before we get deep into this. Learn the operation. You come from thinking, then physical. Not physical, now I think. Retard. Y'all got over that. Retard. So the things you think about: miscellaneous, degenerate, lost, confused. And when you find something to substantiate yourself on, that's when you end up thinking that you're found, but you're found within a lost world. People find comfort in gangs every day. People find comfort in cults every day. People find keyword find, cult lost itself. Find, you still found, just in a lost spectrum itself. So I want to get everybody a clear perspective. It ain't nothing even wrong with gangs, ain't nothing wrong with cults, unless you're cultivating and being a gang for proper reasons and things of that nature. If it's just for retarded stuff, no product, no anything of that nature, it don't even help other individuals and stuff like that, then we have to decipher what is that. You know what I'm saying? It's something cosplaying something else. It ain't really a cult. Something cosplaying something else. It ain't really a gang. You know what I'm saying? Real stuff. Because the last time I checked, even when y'all get into the other gangs, Blood, Crip, GD, like, don't these mean something? Don't Blood mean something? Brothers living amongst opportunity, Dalmatian or something like that? Don't Crip stand for civilized, renovating ideology, something like it's something that got something to do with the community or something like that. Shout out to all the Crips, shout out to all the Bloods, the GDs, Latin Kings, stuff like that. Shout out to all the positive cults and the positive people. You know what I'm saying? Positive just means you're taking your time on productive things. When you take your time on productive things, you're going to get attacked just like in any other area. It just ain't petty. It just ain't retarded. So you still might have to fight fire with fire. You still might got to protect yours and stuff like that. But guess what? It's justified, especially through the eyes of God. So for the most part, it ain't about being peaceful. It's about productivity energy. And if you're doing something productive, the only thing that's attacking that got to be something evil. Got to be something negative. Got to be something degenerate. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, you got to understand it from that perspective. And when you look at it like that, you're like, okay, I get it now. I get it now. You know what I'm saying? Now you can put yourself into a situation where you know that, okay, the vibe and that I'm feeling, right? It's a contest of what we're all developing, our vibe. And our vibe is just a collection of our first body forms, thoughts, and feelings. Now, when you get into that, for the most part, that lets you know you was in a form before you was in that physical flesh form. And you did this many times or whatever the case may be. Or you're going to have to explain to me, right? All right, let's get scientifical. We 12 minutes, we ain't 12 minutes in, but let's get scientific so we can break the mind down or whatever the case may be, right? Let's say you're a person, I don't believe in the spirit because of the way it been presented to you, the breath or some other type of retard stuff, where it can just be replaced with your space of you being an observer. So you observe many thoughts and feelings, many physical transitions, all the way to age and things of that nature, right? Now, let's say, well, I started thinking after the flesh. Not I was a thought form and then that condensed into flesh, right? Then why you don't have the same comprehension level, whether you're smarter or dumber than your parents? Why you don't think the exact same way? Why you still have this subjective concept or whatever the case? And a lot of y'all are more intelligent than family, friends, associates, co-workers. A lot of y'all are not. But for the most part, where does that come from? If you truly just start thinking from the substance of someone who already had a brain, and why your brain ain't exactly reactionary the same way that their brain is and things of that nature, right? So that puts you in a perspective of you're collecting experiences to develop comprehension in areas on your own beyond what you think you connected to as far as just flesh or whatever the case, because there would be no such thing as a person being able to rise to a broader intelligence, and they shouldn't be able to stay in a lower intelligence than whoever gave birth to them or whatever. So it should always be the same type of level of intelligence. But we don't see that, and we don't see that as the case when it comes to subjectivity and stuff like that. So for the most part, you have to know, even if you don't believe in the spirit or not, what develops intelligence or know-how before you learn something after you're already alive or whatever the case may be, right? Experience. So once you experience something for numerous times, it becomes familiar, right? So for your space, if you don't like the word spirit, to be familiar with something, it had more experiences within that area or terrain mentally, and even you're going to experience it physically because you're alive, so you're able to have in sync or relatable energies to tie to whatever physical reality you have with other individuals, aka is just going to play out as you being more intelligent or having more comprehension. Because what y'all call intelligence may just be, oh, I learned this in college or something like that. No, well, comprehension, if you want to flip it to street smarts, book smarts, however the case may be, but comprehension is more on the level of street smart, not talking about street stuff that happens in the streets, but just living in areas where you have to develop the real sense of productivity and stuff like that. right? So for the most part, you know, when you're only going to have a know-how when you are going through something that deals with familiarity, and familiarity only comes from experience. So when you already have a natural awareness, whether it devolves into a talent or not, because a lot of times these things do devolve into talent. You could be born with siblings or whatever the case may be, and you naturally know how or learn how to play the piano faster than someone else in your family, nor do they probably even care about it. But things like that, you see what I'm saying? But for the most part, that goes based off experience alone. So you had that type of experience more than another space or spirit, whether you want to call it, before it's in a mind and a body. A mind is the first body that is getting ready to duplicate or condense in, right? That's the first body that we all have before it becomes into the flesh and things of that nature, and we're able to keep being on that process or whatever. But you could get stuck in your mind, getting too lost using your mind for the flesh. See what I'm saying? So you got to understand it from that aspect. Now, so we have to separate it from that if you want to look at it scientifically. Scientifically, you want to be like, oh, it don't have nothing to do with the observer, which is a space, and me adding the spirit to it may confuse the conversation. But for individuals that's in the science or college or whatever the case may be, but at the same time, just look at it like this is your space and you are observant, and you have observed a lot of things, and there's experiences that you have that you don't pay attention to due to the fact of the level of information that's out there to make you think that's the only thing to be importance, to be as an importance. Like, okay, thinking about the brain function or your eyes or your eardrums, smell, touch, taste, see, and hear, or whatever the case may be. But there's other senses that we just don't have words for, but you experience every day. And you try to comprehend these experiences through smell, touch, see, and hear, or whatever the case may be. But for the most part, you can't do none of those things when you're thinking. You know what I'm saying? Your thought, when you start to have a thought, that's a sense because you are experiencing it, but you can't smell it, can't touch it, can't see it, you can't weigh it, can't feel it, you know what I'm saying? Can't smell it, or whatever the case may be. Yet, it makes up the reality of what these things is when it condenses, and then it could be weighed, it could be visualized, it could be seen externally, it could be felt, it could be wind, it could be these things of that nature. So for the most part, the earliest stages of visualization is things that you're not even visualizing, but it's in thought. So you could tell somebody, I seen something, but for the most part, you have to make sense out of it because y'all so lazy in today's time, not giving importance to things because you so frequently use it, so it's like normalized to you, like the mind and stuff like that. So you just go every day, tell people I seen something, and it's a normal conversation the moment you steered it in the concept of I seen something based upon in thought. So it goes beyond magic. It ain't magic or nothing no more. Now it's just, oh, this is what we just regularly do or whatever the case may be. So it leaves from the train of thought and a line of reasoning of us tying it to scientific practices that it probably could be applied because we know how to look at a different sense with that type of experience. That's actually the first layer before it gets condensed into the five senses, that before it's even five senses physically, you're having these type of experiences. So it's like an implosion, it's like a condensing or whatever the case may be. And this is how the mind is becoming fleshly fluid. These are not separate things. It's just the mind charge it up by producing more of it that we call fleshly fluid or whatever. So when you lack mind and you lack careful mentality and things of that nature, you lack the concept of being able to have a sufficient, well-oiled running machine organ program. You know what I'm saying? Your mechanism, your innerverse or whatever the case, your transverse. If you don't like that spiritual word, transverse or whatever like that, your immune system, your hormones and things of that nature, right? You got to get these things regulated first based upon in thought. Then it leads into the actions that regulate these things. And that's actually showing you that you're physically doing things externally that represent what the mind wants you to do. And the mind is showing you, okay, yeah, it's the mind first. And the mind is actually giving that motivation, giving that adrenaline, giving that actual blood itself. So that's where blood come from and things of that nature, because y'all get lost and not understand things. So when I break down like where mosquitoes come from or where lice come from and stuff like that, y'all don't want to believe it because didn't no scientists think that deep, and it ain't really that deep to be thinking about and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? So everything comes from the blood, but the blood get condensed from the thought, and the spiritual pocket and groups of spaces in it, which is spirits and things of that nature, have their own perception that takes that clogginess and have their own mind based upon having that same type of characteristic or similar on that lesser scale. And then that's how we're bringing things into existence and stuff like that. So you got to keep that in mind. Like a lot of stuff like mosquitoes, lice and stuff like that, these things come from the body itself, not no outside thing. Because a lot of y'all would think that you catch a lot of things, wingworms and stuff like that might, but stuff like lice, other type of things. These things get developed from inside the body. You see what I'm saying? So when you have hormonal imbalances, it also create different toxins and other bacteria or parasitic life. And that parasitic life, right? For an example, right? Because y'all probably think, okay, that might be pseudo or whatever. Because y'all don't know how to look at y'all cells, right? You are made out of the thing that you need. So what are you made out of? 75%, 85% what? Fluid, water, right? So that's why you need water. So if a mosquito need human blood, and that's the only way it produces or whatever, or a lice need human hair or whatever the case may be to survive, so it lets you know that substance is what it's made out of. So what you feed off of is what you made out of. So when you understand it from that starting point, you understand how we're creating blood. We're creating blood from thought. You know what I'm saying? And thought condense. So we're producers of life. In the metaphysical and a literal sense. You know what I'm saying? Last time I checked, women can have kids. You know what I'm saying? So we're producers of life. But y'all don't understand how far that goes so we can get ready to break down what we passed 12 minutes. So we get ready to break down what I'm breaking down. You know what I'm saying? I'm just giving y'all just like a what they call disclaimer. My disclaimers is like science classes and stuff like that. So we separate the dichotomies so you don't go down a train of thought and line of reason of trying to debunk. You get into an open mind first, and then you take whatever you don't like and whatever you do understand, and then you're able to come to your own unbiased conclusion. Therefore, it separates me from claiming I'm the charlatan or I'm the person that's wrong, yet still I'm the individual that probably gave you the right starting point to go into the right line of reasoning and train of thought. And that's how you become a real teacher, not someone that's an agent, not someone that's a grifter, and they're trying to uphold something that they truly don't know anything about, but it's at the pure basis of it, a means for them to keep a roof over their head and food on the table and clothes on their back. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, it's about, do you have time without those necessities to be able to get into actual knowledge and nature and natural concepts and things of that nature? Or is it some foundation that have already been created from someone who was in that position and now have been put into a product or a business that you could stand up under as a formation for you could go ahead and try to discuss, for you can have a roof over your head? Basically, is this playing out as self-projecting? That's the same concept. That is your sheltering in the spiritual world. So it's just the thing that you use physically to have a shelter or a roof over your head, or however the case may be. But the moment you take it further than that, that takes you across the line of being a grifter. That takes you across the line because now you're too greedy or whatever the case may be, and it went beyond the fact of you just getting money or you being into knowledge or whatever the case may be. And it's you remixing it for something that looked like it could be substantial to keep a roof over your head. So you're going to stay up under that firmament. So that'd be the spiritual lens, how God see agents, or how God's children and things of that nature see individuals as you're building up the mind state to, before it even become the motivation and an adrenaline to come out your organs and come out your vocal cord and things of that nature, for you to think that you preaching or something like that. You know what I'm saying? For you to think that you kicking good knowledge. You know, so we're trying to read books that you know. No, no, what about that? You know what that? Now look, check this out, right? So when we get into ghosts, right? Now, this is what you was before you want to believe in ghosts in a negative way and be like, I'm getting haunted, whatever the case may be. You so lost in your bias, or you just forgot how you got here. You forgot that what forms you in. You know what I'm saying? So your spiritual space, that's you being an observer. Whatever your space is, can't nobody see each other's spirit because that's naked. But we fulfill in that numinous space, right? Our first body, which is our thoughts and feelings. And that's how that's the thing that represent how we move and where we at spiritually. So how a person think and feel is their first body. That's their vibe. That's their mind. And that represent where they're at. So that lets you know if you're very distant from someone or you're close to someone when it comes to having a point of reference, and if y'all gonna agree with it or not. Now, this takes us also into understanding why you be around individuals and you might say, man, you lost, or somebody got a far out thought and idea, or whatever the case may be, or a person just lost out there in foggy land or whatever, or a person is grounded. This is why you say certain terms like that. Now, here's the thing. A person could think far out there, but if they think out there more broad, but it makes sense with what's ever going on in reality, or it's in sync and it's in relatability energy, then that's a person who had a lot of time to experience and comprehend. There was a ghost in that area. If a person just got far out thoughts, but it don't make sense, that's a person that's in foggy land. You gonna call them retarded, they don't comprehend or whatever, and they just got lost thoughts that don't really bend in and make any sense, or can can't even help anybody or can even help themselves, and it's not even creative. It's not even blending in that lens. It's just blending in as a person needing a straitjacket or something like that. That's a person that's truly lost. They're in a location that their spirit origins ain't at. Wasn't initiated as a thought at, as their first body in that spiritual pocket of spirits that like to do things in that way. So ain't nobody truly retarded. They're just not in the area that their expertise is favorable at. You see what I'm saying? So you could look at that where you just had to move to another area, or let's say you in college and you just switch classes because you don't want to take those things no more, whatever the case may be. It'd be the same type of circumstance. You would have to develop and learn there, or have the case, or you will lack comprehension, right? But it might be someone who was already born into that, or already in that class before you. So they know the ins and out of that class before you. So that's just micro ways of understanding what I'm trying to help y'all think about. So when you're thinking spiritual, you could go beyond the physical and start to understand where the physical representations of these things even come from for you to be in existence and experience it. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of times y'all might get lost and think things are pseudo of stuff that you are experiencing every day. You know what I'm saying? It's stuff that you are experiencing every day, but based upon your lack of comprehension, that's even your way of developing what you think you're sensing with your senses. So a lot of things get transferred through your smell, touch, hear, see, sight, to understand things that ain't had nothing to do with that smell, touch, see, hear, sight. Yet you still experienced it though. Now we have problems of trying to explain to each other. So we never could truly get the natural point when we're trying to explain to each other our points and stuff like that. So we just create languages and stuff like that that kind of try to get there. But if it ain't got nothing to do with no external thing that we're connected to, we still not going to truly understand each other and stuff like that unless we get back to spiritual practices, right? I know y'all hate the word spiritual, whatever the case may be, but you know what I'm saying, it's just the way it is. Or space, more spatial, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times when you're too smothered, it might not be nobody around you, but you feel like you got to clear your thought, clear out thought, or whatever the case. You're trying to clear out your space, your spirit, because you got too many thoughts and feelings. That's your first body that you're dealing with, and you need to shed some of that dead snake weight. That's that dead snake skin and things of that nature. It's like dead snake skin. It's like making you, it's wearing you down. It's not allowing you to develop the adrenaline and the blood flow that allows you to do the things that make you feel fruitful, that make you want to get up and do things and stuff like that. So you get in one of those funky situations, and that lets you know where your spiritual space is at. So when we start to talk about the ghost itself, and before you came here, right now, your first form is a thought and a feeling. So it's like a floating vibe. Right, so if you in the same space, this is how you was in the same space as your parents, or however the case may be, and their grandparents, and for the most part their grandparents and their grandparents. But for the most part in the spiritual world, that don't mean everybody is family. You see what I'm saying? It just means you share a characteristic. So your spirit created a mind state to represent that space you're in, and those spirits that's in that space with those similar characteristics in their subjective way, those are thought forms. So once you share experiences with a group of spirits, y'all in the washing machine cycle, and whoever condense and become into flesh first or whatever, they could bring into the other one and bring it to the other one. And that's how we doing that creation, mutation, evolution. That creation, evolution, mutation washing machine cycle concept. So for the most part, as the mind is the first body, this is how we interact in that kind of concept also. And based upon what side we take, that deciphers male or female or whatever, but we all be all these things, right? Then when we come into the flesh or whatever, right? Since the mind condensed and become the organs, the mind mathematics and how it condensed also become similar in organs. So you have similar features. You may have similar facial features, you know what I'm saying? Similar ways you move your body and things of that nature of those group of spirits that you was around, sharing those similar characteristics to reach an objective or a goal or some way, shape, or form, which is ultimately an experience. Right? So when you understand that, that puts you into the spectrum of knowing that, okay, life is getting imploded from the inside out. We expand it from the inside out, and once it implodes, it's like the outside we get to experience. So you in two different layers. As a spirit, you get to experience the first body you're in, your mind, and the second body you're in, that is condensing and becoming a being, charging up your physical body and things of that nature. So you know that you're having these dual experiences, and then we create that ourselves for us all to create. Teamwork makes the dream work. All of our minds connected together, so we get to experience an external world together, And we all got this understanding that everyone has an internal own subjectivity and things of that nature. So that's the external representation of what we're able to do with ourselves. We get to create an external representation, our physical flesh, and an internal representation, that mind. And as the spirit, we keep that charged up. We create the mind, body, mind's body, mind's body. So if you already got a body, the mind is what's keeping this going, because the mind is condensing and becoming the adrenaline or whatever the case may be, right? So when, let's say, in this washing machine cycle, you might have been in a situation where things may have happened and you wasn't really fulfilled, or however the case may be. You're going to be in that field. You're going to be in that area. You're connected to everything, because for the most part, our mind is conditioned to become our flesh and everything external. The grass, the wind, the trees, and things of that nature, the bushes. We're all connected to these things or whatever. The same things you need is the things you're made out of. So if you need air, you're made out of. You need water, you're made out of it. So you're seeing air is just water is a condensed air as a collapsing. So it's showing you what we do. Teamwork makes the dream work. External representations show you how we brought ourselves here. The mind is like a cloud that condensed and become the organ. In each area, our spirit is emanating it. So when we write here, we create a cloud, it condensed and become the brain. When we write here, it's a cloud and it condensed become the heart. We write here, this is when you in your own area. Right? So we all help each other. Teamwork makes the dream work too, to speed up the process. This is how you're able to be born inside of someone else and outside of someone else, and the same thing through you, or however the case may be. You know what I'm saying? These fleshly fluids is created based upon the thought. So if you're a spiritual, since you created all these forms, right? Let's say your spirit want to be in a space of up here. Then you create all the thoughts that you already on that washing machine process of, that the thoughts condense and become fleshly fluids here. You get aroused here. That don't necessarily, that it create fleshly fluids here, but it don't necessarily create the fleshly fluids for the other processes. Let's say you want to bring a child in the world. You got to be in that spiritual space. You created this organ, the big old pussy organ. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, you got to step in that space and then emanate those type of thoughts and feelings. Then those thoughts and feelings condense and become fleshly fluids, and then you expand it from the inside out, then it implode it, and now it can be external. But the external even is inside of you also, but it's just a fleshly fluid. External is just another term for what could be felt, what could be seen, what could be touched. Internal is just another concept for what can't be, but the process of the makeup of it or whatever. Then eternal is just what we all are able to do, experience it, being the spirit before it expired, before the forms that create expire, or whatever the case, right? So this is how you're able, the space that you're in represent where you at spiritually. Then when you start to become aware, the awareness is the substance that becomes the experience when you're in your first body, and then that becomes your ghost body, right? And then that represent all the other spirits that's around there, things of that nature. And that's the only thing you're going to be connected to other spirits with, because you can't truly just share another spirit space. Always got to be something in between, right? So that's the thought, the first body, then the substance, that's the connecting, and then you can come through a person or whatever, but you still got your own space. You just coming through their space and stuff like that, because y'all all sharing that space. So for the most part, now let's say you alive right now. Now there's a lot of situations that you have. The situation itself is a form. It's a collection of thoughts to create an experience or an awareness. Whether you built something there, you inside of a house, or whatever the case may be. Right? So that vortex is a soul chamber, and you is part of that process, and every other spirit, especially the ones that's in the washing machine cycle that may not, that's trying to get born again, they get born through you. So there's a shared communion of characteristics. Those are the thoughts, those are the first bodies. That's what's connecting. Those senses that you could be aware of, right? You can keep a hold of transitions, especially through death and how you're going to come back and stuff like that, because you're always going through experiencing or whatever. So if you know what you are experiencing, you know what you are doing. When you're developing a mentality, right? That's you making up your first body to sustain whatever ocean wave of thoughts. Teamwork makes the dream work. All of our thoughts together is going in as a stream. If you highly resist it, it become frustrating. If you're going in the flow in a direction that it's supposed to go, it become easy going, or whatever the case may be. And now here's the thing. A lot of times when you're dealing with spirits that's frustrating and stuff like that, it's because they're trying to escape or go back where they're going, but they don't know what they're doing, and they don't know that's the actual case. So y'all might share characteristics, but it might be the negative attributes. So for the most part, you might have ghosts around you that share your characteristics, because there's possibilities that they could be born through you and stuff like that, but these characteristics is kind of like blocking you in your life or whatever. So it's like a negative trait you got that you not understanding is connecting all those other negative forms and spirits that's not even born yet, and they're creating experiences for you. They're helping you create experiences which you're emanating on. Anytime you emanate a thought and feeling, you're creating a body, an experience, a portal to jump through, and that's your mind. So you get ready to see things only through that lens. And every other spirit that's a participant with that same kind of similar characteristics going to see it through their own perception. But that's how y'all all make up the situation. That's how you even get in with friends and all kind of stuff. So a lot of times, based upon negative thoughts or negative feelings that you may have, these may be attached to other spirits, and for the most part, we survive off of the thing that we're made out of. So if all of our first bodies is mind states, right, then that's what's going to feed. That's what it's going to feed off of. So with that, let's say it's something you don't really like about yourself. There's going to be other spirits that got that same kind of characteristics trying to be born through you. So they're going to be helping you create situations and stuff like that. And a lot of times it may go out in situations like, it may play out like insecurities. It may play out as you being unsure and stuff like that. And then you finding all the excuses of why you right to be unsure. All the excuses of why you right to be insecure, or whatever the case may be. And for the most part, that lets you know you being hunted. You ain't really being hunted. It's something that you have to get rid of, that this thing is feeding on, or whatever, or these other spirits is feeding on. And it's not like it's intentional to be negative, or whatever the case may be. You see what I'm saying? All spirits, all species, first body is the mind. And that's the first world before we condense and externalize it and be in our own little world physical pockets, aka shared organs, to create things together, like the little monkeys, the lions, and stuff like that. So look at it like that. So let's say, you know, before you was a physical body, you was a mind body, right? So that's everything. There's mind bodies, still like physical, right? That just goes beyond your comprehension, but you're still dealing with every day. This is what we're talking about, the realm or whatever. So look at it like that. Let's say if you want to look at the physical form of Yehovah, when we get into God and or all possibilities and stuff. So when we get into different structures and form, the world you in right now, the 5-pointed being, Yehovah, right? So look at it like this. Let's say, remember how I broke down how mosquitoes is made? It might have been a human or an animal that died, and you get specific kind of mosquitoes and stuff, right, next to some water. So that pocket, that blood in that pocket of water, all the spirits that was in that little space, right, was able to be in that first cloth, the mind, and then for the most part bend in and then become in the physical and be in that little water pocket. Now, for the most part, they're in this world. So to make more mosquito babies, they need a human blood, where they come from, and then drop it in some water pocket, how they came to be with the human blood. And then for the most part, because that's what water is anyway, it's your whole blood, right? And then for the most part, that's how mosquito babies come here and stuff like that. So if you a human, right, all species first body is the mind. So this is how we're all experiencing each other first and things of that nature, right? So you're feeding off Yehovah, right? So it's almost like a mind body that you be trying to get to in your mind body, being smaller and stuff like that, and suck on it. And when you suck on it, it play out. You only see it because you physical, so you only see it as, oh, I did something right, or I got an idea about something. But you're being fulfilled because you're eating. You see what I'm saying? The spirit is just a space, and then it creates this first body, the mind. So it's like a cloud, and then for the most part, there's the holy cloud, Yehovah, or whatever. And anytime you get close to that, right, your cloud could be more sufficient. It's like being blessed. You'll never be less, but you're getting something greater in your lesser form and things of that nature, so you could be great within your lesser realm, or whatever the case may be. So it's almost like all the clouds is just like cooled off parts of the sun. It's just spreading out, because the sun is just a hot cloud. It ain't what y'all think. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, you got to look at it like that. So it'll be like how you as a species that an animal is feeding off of and things of that nature. It's the same kind of concept. You just visualizing yourself being in a physical. But really you are a spirit inside of your first mind body floating around, and you always trying to find one of them beings that put yourself in a mosquito body, and if a mosquito was trying to find a human. This is what you doing at this level of life. This is exactly what you're doing at this level of life and things of that nature. Nor do these holy ones see y'all in the way that y'all think you see a mosquito. see what I'm saying? So you have to keep that in mind. But it's the kind of same kind of layer. You know, a mosquito is there to suck your blood and you try to kill it or whatever the case may be. If you try to suck the thing like let's say if it's human, compared to your mind being a little fly, and you stay on it too long and it figure it out and it smack you, right? That'd be a confusing thought you have, but it would play out in this existence as you get into an accident that everybody think they can make sense out of. But you'll be extremely hurt if you didn't die, or death in some way, shape, or form. You was on the thing too much or whatever, or one of these holy ones too much. You see what I'm saying? So you have to look at comprehension and mind bodies. Mind bodies is the first body. That's lineages and stuff like that. And then for the most part, when you're just playing out little physical forms and stuff, you're stuck in a little pocket. So you have to look at it like that. There ain't no such thing as what people and humans be trying to create and over exaggerate about stuff. But for the most part, you as a ghost. So the ghost, what is a ghost? A ghost is a mentality, a floating mentality, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of times, you might not be born due to the fact of, or other spirits may not be born due to the fact of, you might be interested. Let's say if you're a male or a female, and you're interested into the opposite sex, but you never get a situation where the person get pregnant, or you impregnate a person, or you get pregnant, or whatever the case may be, right? That's y'all trying, it's that spirit also with its own idea, helping y'all with your own idea, create situations to make that be. And the situation itself is that spirit body, and y'all be creating situations because your spirit make mental bodies. So for the most part, it's like a portal. It's like a sector. And the thoughts collect, and that's what's creating fleshly fluid. That's the only way fleshly fluid could come to be. Or you're going to be studying NASA and science for the rest of your life and never come to no conclusion and stuff. Because we have a lot of conversations about robots or is life was always technology or something like that. But that's dumb conversations after you're already born, wherever like that. All you got to do is question. Can a robot be born like a human or animal? No. All right, end of discussion. It has nothing to do with technology. Humans ain't technology, right? Because what they be saying, they be trying to say people live in a simulation. No, that's made up. Now, if you want to call it a simulation, you working at McDonald's and some human creating the way it worked, all right, but don't get that too much credit. Now I have nothing to do with the, you know what I'm saying, the mind and none of that other stuff y'all be talking about and stuff. That's this human stuff. You know what I'm saying? So you have to look at it like that. There ain't no such thing as a simulation, right? So when it comes into the mind or whatever, the mind is producing and create an organism, which is an organ system. So that's the only real mechanics or whatever the case may be. It has to be something a spirit do. You know what I'm saying? Now, a spirit could be in a mind inside of a body and create a robot, but that's something that pleases the flesh. Remember, the spirit creates the mind, so the mind mimics the spirit. And the spirit, if you have an individual solo spirit, that's what a soul is. Just your space, not the mind. You know what I'm saying? The mind is a collection of characteristics, the thoughts and feelings, the stuff that represent your spiritual space. So the spirit creates the mind, so the mind mimics the spirit. The mind creates the physical flesh, so the physical flesh mimics the mind. And the physical flesh create conveniences from the external world, because teamwork makes the dream work. We create the external world. So the physical gonna mimic the flesh. So for the most part, when you make a robot, the robot only can mimic the flesh. It can't mimic the mind, and it damn sure can't mimic the spirit. You see what I'm saying? But then if you get more spiritual and things into your own space, you observe in your first body, your mind. So you start to understand, okay, my mind is trying to mimic the spirit, and I can get confused with my mind, my characteristic, my thoughts, my feelings, my desires, my first body of how I got here to condense the physical flesh in the first place. And I could confuse it. And if I don't believe in my space, my spirit, my soul, or whatever the case may be, then I could think I'm the mind or whatever. Yet I know I ain't got certain mind states I had 5 years ago. Yet I know I ain't got certain, you know what I'm saying? So you ain't even going down that train of thought, a line of reasoning. And then this where you just become your mind, and then the mind is only going to be supported by what it made, the body. So you only use your mind to make up what you are fulfilled, or your pride or your ego of what you're doing in the flesh, based upon being an agent or having a title or whatever you get ready to utilize because you went to college and learned something, or however the case may be. And when these things start to fade, your mind ability to feel motivated and develop adrenaline to keep doing these things start to fade. But your spirit's still there experiencing and observing, right? So for the most part, that's when you start to understand the mind state might be confused that don't allow you to feel fulfilled with the physical attributes, that the external things that you're doing is no longer useful to you or whatever. Even if through the eyes of other individuals, it looked like a place or a position that they wanted to be in. You know what I'm saying? And they'd be looking at you like, well, if I was this person, I'd be doing this. If I was that person, I'd be doing that. However the case may be. So you got to peep game. First, it's your space. If you don't like the word spirit or however the case, and you're already developing ghosts, right, amongst yourself. So these are different forms before they even become in these areas that play out where our organs is at and stuff. And if you're too depressing, you create illnesses within your hormones and your organ system and stuff like that, because that's the development of it, the completing of it. You had help and assistance by your parents and stuff like that, which is why they were so running. But as soon as you came about your mother, that's when you wasn't so much of a well-oiled running machine, especially when you got off her nipple, or however the case may be. You see what I'm saying? So when you understand the actual engineering of life, you're able to harness and understand that, okay, this is an experience. So I know these collection of thoughts and feelings is my first body. So when this one expires, if I indulge too much in these things for the things I was doing when I'm alive right now and things of that nature, then the time that I go, I could get confused and be trapped in that form. So for the most part, I have to make sure that I'm light enough, aka I ain't got all these thoughts and feelings, based upon whatever conveniences that I was extremely trying to do in the physical or whatever the case may be. I have to understand that these things don't matter based on the amount of matter that I'm giving to it right now, or however the case. And then what for that point, then that'll steer your actions in a different direction, because a lot of people think that you can do negative things and then have this thought form. No, you already made that mind state, already did the thing. There ain't no justified. You already judged or whatever, but it ain't nobody judging you. It's you and what you did yourself. You see what I'm saying? So it ain't nobody putting you in hell, it ain't nobody putting you in heaven. And these are just transitional things, or whatever the case may be, right? But it's up to you. So you have to make sure that you is in the right spiritual space, that you develop the right mind states, first body, that's more relatable and in sync with reality of whatever that you're doing. So whatever that you're doing is justified also, and things of that nature. So a lot of y'all might claim, oh, I'm affected by ghosts or whatever the case may be, because you're in that spiritual space. And if it's something that you don't like that you are experiencing, it's something that you know that you don't like about yourself, but you don't stop doing to a certain degree. So you put yourself into that space. Now, there is things that other spirits put you in that space. You might be part of a lineage or something like that, that all the spirits you around, right, is still floating around and stuff like that. So it might be spirits that's totally against your idea or whatever the case, right? So let's say your first body is your mind, your thought, your idea, and you're around a whole bunch of other spirits that was against that or whatever. Every time if you alive, every time you try to do these things, you will be in situations that seem like it's a blockage, something blocking you. And then you can't really blame people. It's just the way the situation play out for you. You could kind of compartmentalize and compare and contrast between you and people that you know went through similar situations and it was all good for them and it's not all good for you, yet you did the same thing and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It play out like that. It's either stopping you from doing that thing because your way of doing it goes against their way of doing it. It might be part of a lineage where they own it and they rather be born into somebody that more on the ownership side of it, but they only can attach themselves to you at the moment because this is where you picked them up at in your area. And since your thought, your mind's first spaceship, and then your adrenaline and your body leads you to the area that they can connect with more, you're their only connection until they can go ahead and attach themselves to the people that they trying to get around, that you only be around maybe when you go to work, or maybe wherever you be at, but not large amount of times and stuff like that. And they would create a situation where it X you out of it and stuff like that. Like a lot of y'all have had jobs where something went wrong. It was a good job too. And you're like, dang, I don't know what went wrong. But something happened. It led to another thing. And yeah, I can look at it now, how it could have been prevented. But in the time that it was happening, it just happened that way. It wasn't nothing I could possibly do the way I'm thinking now. Whether it was a argument, fight, or late, or anything, right? It'd be like those type of situations that y'all go through. That lets you know there's another spirit attached trying to take your place, right? But it might not, since you ain't having sex enough, it ain't a child yet, and it sees somebody else there that's more connected or whatever that it can attach itself to. So once it attaches itself to them people, the negative thoughts start to be seen as something on you to detach from. So it'd be just a situation made up to get you up out of that job or to get you out of that situation. Or if you in jail with these and you was in a certain area in the jail, for you to get moved to a different side of the jail, or however the case may be. Like something that just happened that it really didn't have to happen, but it just happened that way. And yeah, you can come up with all the ways how it could have been prevented after the fact, but in that time, you couldn't see how that thought could have came to be prevented when it was going on. Those be the situations when, yeah, that ghost kicking ass at that moment. That ghost kicking at that moment when it comes to your situation. It ain't even just situations like that. It might be relationships y'all be trying to get. You know what I'm saying? All kind of stuff. And it be looking at it like, nah, this ain't it. This ain't it, chief. This ain't it, chief. This and stuff like that. And you be like, dang, I really like that person. What made that person cheat? Or I really like that person. Why I had to move, or whatever. Or why this person had to move, or why this person had to go to jail, or sometimes in a lot of cases die and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Based upon how many thoughts and feelings is affecting the situation, because the situation is just a collection of space and spirits beyond human. You know what I'm saying? Because here's the thing, y'all want to, I know you might want to say I'm pseudo, but it's spirits in the bodies of any sentient being. So just because you don't want to believe in the mind bodies and stuff like that, you don't know what bugs is around y'all at the same time, animals and stuff like that, when you're going through something and stuff like that. And then a lot of times you do see, but you so much in your own situation, you don't care. You'll keep the cat out the way or the dog out the way or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, you're involved. Everybody involved to have that experience or whatever, and how we virtual spaces, creating the mind, our first bodies, that all connecting, then it could be the physical representations in our physical flesh separation that we see. Hold on, is it blurry? Let me refresh it real quick. Let me refresh it. Okay, yeah. So you got to keep that in mind, right? So a lot of times, this is why a lot of y'all move. Now, all right, let's get to America, right? Let's get to North America and stuff like that, right? Now, you could be any ethnic group or whatever the case may be, right? But depending on where you at, and that's pretty much everywhere, right? There's a percentage scale. Now, 300 years is not necessarily long enough, right? So there's a lot of, this is why, let's say if you are African American over here, Asian or Arab, and you start, and you, especially if you become a celebrity or something like that and things of that nature, you start, oh, I want a Brazilian. You start wanting to get exotic or however the case may be and stuff, because you're already in a different area. So for the most part, it's kind of like you're affected by colonists and Native American spirits and stuff like that. So since you're not in your homelands and stuff like that, it's harder for you to do these things and still not understand this what you're doing anyway in some way. Not just that, also when it comes to you trying to claim territory, or when it comes to, for an example, the colonist spirits that's getting born, that's trying to get born, a lot of them go back home and stuff like that when they get out of hell and stuff. But then even like a lot of them thought like that. They need as many women as possible. And they was doing it with natives, and then they started doing it with Africans when they was bringing Africans over here and Asians and stuff like that. That's where that thought originated from in America. You won't be born in China and have that thought. You won't be born in Africa and have that thought or whatever. So just because you was born somewhere or you're from somewhere in America doesn't mean you're from America. You see what I'm saying? You get that thought from colonists or whatever. Oh, I was born here. I was born in Mississippi. Or I was born in, or whatever. That don't mean you from America. Your phenotype, all that, not from here or whatever. So you have a certain thought frame that you're interacting with based upon ghosts, and you still have your own concept and where you from and stuff like that. So that's a battle in itself. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, this is why a lot of times it's real easy for African Americans and Filipinos, and then, like, they don't mind becoming agents and stuff like that. Right now we have kind of more African American, white and black, Filipino. We have more of them as agents and East Indians and stuff like that than actual white people. Like the white colonists and stuff like that. Not a lot of them is gone. and stuff like that. So it's like all a mind game at this point. But at the same time, when we just start to talk about what people are interacting with, you're either picking up a colonist thought, or you're being haunted by a colonist ghost, pardon me, or you're haunted by a Native American ghost, or whatever the case may be. So, and a lot of times, this why when you might live a frustrating life or feel like you're in bondage and you move around a lot, or when you die, your spirit go back home, or whatever the case may be. But based upon lack of comprehension and things of that nature, and what you think you're comprehending on and stuff like that, that puts you into a situation of just trying to survive. So when you think about, now, here's the thing. When we talk about 300 years and stuff like that, a lot of all ethnic groups, we all mixed. You know what I'm saying? Been here. So it's a percentage scale and things of that nature. That's what's going on. So now that takes us into the title, comprehension, right? So when you are an individual and you are smart, right? Or let's say you got a family member, but we talk about you right now, and you're very smart, right? As a spirit, you've been in this washing machine cycle for a minute. And let's say other ethnic groups, whether you're mixed or not, or however the case may be, right? For this little 300 years, you've been here a little bit longer than other individuals. Let's say you got, we're not talking about book smarts, but we talk about comprehension, right? Let's say your comprehension skills, you're able to decipher something, which leads into book smarts anyway. You know what I'm saying? That makes a person feel like anyway. But for the most part, let's say you're more comprehended up than other individuals and stuff. Okay, you was the ghost floating around in that area. So whether you was born and think, oh, I'm just learning this area more than everybody else, it's more senses you have experience beyond the physical terrain. You know what I'm saying? You have put together in sync and relatable things that make sense to that area a lot more than other individuals. So that's your way to be able to pinpoint, oh, I was here longer than this person. When you start to decipher why you smarter than your friend, why you smarter than your sibling, or why you smart, you see what I'm saying? And things of that nature. When it comes into this things in life or whatever, yeah, that person might have got a degree before you, but y'all know when y'all was playing a video game or when y'all was doing something else, y'all was playing volleyball or something, you had the comprehension that allowed you within the group for people to know what it is. We see this all the time, especially when it comes to these rappers and stuff like that. We know a lot of times the main rapper ain't the main importance when it comes to a person's entourage and stuff like that. We know a lot of times it'd be other cats, especially when it comes to ghostwriters and stuff. It'd be the homeboy next door whole life story and stuff like that. So when it be the homeboy next door life story and stuff, then a lot of times y'all be thinking it was homeboy, but nah, it was the other homeboy y'all ain't know about and stuff like that. So a lot of times this help you understand that. But when you around individuals that may be lost or lack comprehension and stuff like that, they're way out of bounds. You know what I'm saying? When a person is way out of bounds and stuff like that, right? It's not that they're dumb in the spiritual world. Everybody's smart. It just might play out in the things that everybody lost in the physical world, and they may lack comprehension and need extreme assistance on that type of terrain or whatever the case may be. So you might be able to call this person stupid or whatever, but they're just not in the area of the origin of their spirit to be able to be in the same position as you, because you was putting together the comprehension when you was a ghost. So when you was even putting things in certain areas for even your situation to be better, for you to have better time to think once you are already born, to have more comprehension than your friend or whatever the case may be. All that counts and stuff like that. You was creating a scenario from being a ghost as a spirit or whatever the case. And if you want to call it haunting or whatever the case, no, is this a shared commonality when it comes to characteristics? And the characteristics that y'all sharing and things is how you even get inside someone. So that's the only way you could be born, is knowing how to create a thought and a feeling that you're experiencing, and then it becomes the vibe that everybody is sinking to and that you're sinking in. So that area, if you've been in that area for a long time, that means you have a know-how. So you're more familiar. Now, just because you're born or whatever the case may be, this is why you can't question if you're smarter than your friends or whatever the case may be, why you're smarter than them. But I just gave you why. You know what I'm saying? You was in that area longer than them, or however the case may be. And you took different forms. And you probably was born in a human form. A lot of everybody was. We talk about the washing machine cycle. Not because I don't want everybody to think, well, I was just a different form all the time. No, your monkey self was a human. And you was in that area longer than them. So when it comes into the physical and stuff like that, this is why you kind of got the know-how, whatever that y'all doing. Whether y'all together playing sports, whether y'all together just thinking, whether y'all together just being some type of friendly stuff, however the case may be, right? So that lets you know even when you in a situation and ain't nobody around, but you start to catch weird thoughts, you start to catch weird feelings and stuff like that. You're in the first world. Everybody got to know you're always in the first world first, and your first body is always your mind. And you just have to understand that sense. And then once you understand that sense, then you understand, oh, that's what's condensing to become my smell, touch, see, hear, sight, or my organs and my eat, sleep quality or whatever. Because that's all really the physical is predicated off eat, fuck, and sleep. You know what I'm saying? But once you understand, oh, my first body is the mind, now you start to now you're starting to see it's a whole different ball game that you was already in anyway and stuff like that. You was just not giving it credit, or you was probably listening to NASA too much. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, ain't nothing wrong with NASA and stuff like that, but it's just sometimes when you hear arguments that try to conflate, you know what I'm saying? Because there's no such thing as a scientific method for the mind. Now, all the human can do is understand patterns. And since you understand, we created this word mind, and you understand humans think, only thing you can do is decipher or come up with a method to decipher patterns that a person may do with their mind. And then we see every now and then a person change their desire for whatever a pattern was being made out of to consider how a person would think if somebody's mind getting studied, or however the case may be. So for the most part, we know that there's an incoherent inconsistency that's being developed as a scientific method when we start to talk about exercise and practices that deals with the mind. And anytime a person get out of their own mind, the only way you can understand somebody else's mind is understanding your own mind. When you understand how to bend your kneecap, if somebody else don't know how to bend their kneecap, you could teach them because you learn how to bend your kneecap. If you learn how to dribble the ball, you can teach somebody else how to dribble a basketball because you learn how to dribble the basketball. It's the same way with thinking. You only can learn other varieties of methods to understand thinking processes, understanding your own thought processes. The moment you take your own limited comprehension and think that you read some books to understand somebody else's mind, you're going to lack what you're doing and drive yourself crazy. You're going to lack understanding of what you're doing. And this is where people who drove themselves crazy at. Everybody who drove themselves crazy was in a position of trying to think for other individuals or trying to come up with a way of studying somebody else's mind. Right? So this is a person who lacks their own ability to develop their own mind, so they couldn't teach it. They can only teach about what others and always be wrong. So this is how you always end up with a situation where someone changing their ideology about something based upon a desire. So things have to be created for a desire, and then a pattern have to be made out of it, but based upon what's ever created, based upon it being a product, a necessity. Once that lesson up of a person care for it, then for the most part, the mind start to do the same thing again, aka something that can't have a scientific method behind it. You know what I'm saying? So we have to understand that we just understand patterns, and that's a pattern in itself. When a person loses desire for something, they switch ideas about how they're going about it. So for the most part, we're only tracking patterns in all kind of ways, shapes, and forms, but there's no way that you could create some type of scientific method for the mind, nor can you weigh it, nor can you see it, nor can you hear it, but yet you experience it. So for the most part, when you try to dry it out with logical arguments and things of that nature, here's where you fail, because you're using something very mystical and magical based upon the lack of you liking that word or not to be able to do these things. I don't know where you're pulling your thoughts from. I just know that that represents your spiritual space, and that's what you are observing. So it's going to represent your point of reference, your letter A. Point of reference for the first time from your observer position, being a subjective individual and a sentient being. I'll leave it there, whatever the case may be. So all I have to do is decipher that thought, and I know that spirits come from a space, and the thought represent that space. Once I decipher that thought, I'm able to understand what spiritual space that spirit is in, because we can't see the spirit, and therefore, if you a big spirit like me, you know all the ins and outs. So it ain't really nothing that spirit can do to tell you that it's somewhere else or whatever, because you know it's only feeding from that location and that sheleote or that God or that thought form that's greater than it, that spirit that have already had those experiences. So it has all those characteristics of know-hows and struggles and failures and figuring things out, which is mental fruits, bodies, that you as a spirit is made out of that fruit, because that characteristic is you're similar but you're smaller, so you have to get close to that spiritual space to get more of those type of fruits, to figure out how to make with your fruit, your mind that you're inside of, more fruitful, so you can feel fulfilled, or however the case may be, aka you got more ideas of how to go about your situation so it can look like it's going in your favor. So you suck from that being that have went through multiple situations that you're trying to go through, especially when you're going through a struggle at the moment and you don't know what to do, but it's the same direction that you're trying to go. So you go in that space, that spirit that then did that and been there and done that. So those thoughts and feelings is still there that you could suck off of like a mosquito in your first mental body. It bend in and become your blood, your adrenaline, your organ, and you start to play that out in your existence, in your mind, and your physical body, and things of that nature. And for the most part, anytime you get fulfilled, you don't need that spiritual space and fruit energy no more. You think you got enough to sustain yourself. And when it starts to drain up in the physical reality or whatever, and you ain't got no more thoughts and feelings that can make you feel fulfilled, hear yourself go needing to go back to it or whatever the case may be. And that would be what y'all actually doing in the spiritual world in your first body and the mind. Now, let's say you're looking at that thing in the allegory of Greek philosophy and stuff like that, which really Muskaki Creek, that's plagiarized, right? This will be what you're reading in the Bible when they say they're killing a god or sacrificing a god, right? Now you have humans who took that culture, plagiarized it from understanding it like how I'm explaining it. And then when you don't understand it that way, you do sarcasm, and then you want people to look at you that way, you do these traits physically. So you start hanging people on crosses physically, or you start putting people in a jail physically. A physical hell. You put people in debt physically. The physical debt. You see what I'm saying? So you got to understand what's going on when it comes to these covenants and these seals and stuff like that and bloodlines. But at the same time, it's helping you understand that there's a spiritual judgment of how we get here in the first place, and then there's a physical representation, and we're so far down the line in the age of enlightenment philosophy on the wrong territory. You being a foreigner, or even you being a young native, especially if you mix, going to be so confused right now to the point that you're going to argue against something that all species can't help but to do first anyway, and look at the same concept. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, you can't escape your first body being the mind. That's what you have to understand. And that's the world that we're over exaggerating, but you're doing every day, that we're giving all these names to and stuff like that. And for the most part, when you get confused with spirit, you'll think spirit is the mind. And if I'm telling you minds is thoughts and feelings, you'll get confused when you're reading Greek philosophy as spirits are characteristics. You know what I'm saying? So you'll think spirit is the breath, or spirit is characteristics like virtues or something like that. Where you are a spirit who create these things. You create characteristics. So the spirit, the space, is always using these things as bodies. Mentality as a body, and the mentality bend in and become fleshly fluids and things of that nature. So, the mentality is like light rays that condense and become water, that condense and become air, that condense and become spermacide and stuff like that, and things that grow and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So when we start to talk about you're always there. So if you're hearing another human describe something, even if you're reading the Bible, they're only talking about themselves. You know what I'm saying? That ain't no other world. That's how you only can see it. And stuff like that. So let's say you read in Genesis in the beginning, which is really the Wapanage and stuff like that story and stuff, but like that's inverted. But let's say if you and the Mimac, the Mimac and all of them and things of that nature. But look, for the most part, let's say and the Innu, but let's say if you're reading it, or whatever the case may be, it's a human deciphering themselves. I'm in darkness, right? Let there be light, and the light is good. Now, for the most part, this is what we all do with ourselves, or whatever the case may be, right? There ain't no, or you're going to have to tell me what thing outside of us told you that if you're not the representation of it. See what I'm saying? So representation is a different term for interpretation. So you're interpreting something that we're talking about internally, or whatever the case may be. So this is where interpretation comes from, a person's internal perception about a particular or topic, or however the case may be, right? So if the topic is about the inner world, then for the most part, you need to know that it's a person talking about themselves or their culture. When we talk about something that's formulated into a religion now and things of that nature, but it's just cultures and spiritual practices, and then a lot of stuff got plagiarized and stuff. But at the same time, when you understand it from that aspect, it's talking about you anyway, right? So you are the ghost, and your physical flesh is the tree, is the cross. So now you're able to understand the Adam and Eve story, right? If it's in thought, you have masculine concepts. That's you emanating a thought and an idea. That's Adam. you know, when it condenses, it becomes something you could be inside of, like a mind. So that's like a woman, a womb. So that'd be Eve, a feeling or an emotion. And you know what they linger around, right? Fruit. And you know a fruit hang on a tree. So you got organs that hang on your bones, or whatever the case may be. So you know it comes from the mind, and that's what's being fruitful, and that's what nourishes you as a spirit. So you is the god, or the goddess, or the spirit. You know what I'm saying? And then for the most part, you're hovering over the waters, your emotions, right? And when you hovering over the waters and things of that nature, you have ideas, right? Man. So if your emotions is the waters, that's your woman, right? That you get ready to create. And then for the most part, if you creating light, that's your man, right? So that's your Adam and Eve. Then when they come together, right, it condenses, and then you got a body, you got a tree and organs, right? Now, it has a desire, because it was made out of a desire. So as it condensing and becoming like the veins, and now you got actual veins and stuff like that, it's slithery like a snake. And you could get confused and think you is the snake, and think you is your desire, and think that you need it, think you got the need or whatever. So you lack sacrifice and you cling on to the body, the desire. And what's closer to the desire? If you emanate the masculine, it's expanding and emanating first and distant first, right? That's something in its lighter stage. Then if you do that multiple times and it condenses, then that becomes a mind, a womb. That's something in its feminine stage. It's yin stage. So for the most part, then once it's a condensed mind state, it can become a fleshly fluid. So now that's the body. So what's closer to the body? The emotion. So switch that to the Bible now. What's closer to the tree and the snake? Eve. You know what I'm saying? So now when Eve takes some pleasure or some fruit or something that please the body, please your organs, right? Your emotions. You emotionally attached to something that please you and please your body, right? Now you got to logically decipher if it makes sense or not, or if you overindulgent. That's your emotion trying to make it lighter, so you're not just heavy up under it to see if it makes sense or not. That's Eve giving a fruit to Adam. You know what I'm saying? Because now you're emotionally trying to now logically decipher that emotion, or whatever the case may be. So now you're giving the fruit to Adam. And once you give the fruit to Adam, or whatever the case may be, you're either going to logically create some bullshit and then overindulge and make it sound good, like you can handle it, or whatever the case may be, or you're going to go ahead and smack that chick upside her head and be like, nah, we don't need that desire right now, or whatever the case may be, because it's going to make us fat in the waistline like melted marshmallows cooked too long in the oven. So for the most part, then your tree don't got to be all looking like the Addams Family backyard tree and stuff like that. Growing negative fruits and stuff like that, poison ivies and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And your fruit look like Wednesday in the face. You know what I'm saying? I need to be locked next to the Abaddon or something like that. Go get that to the birds or something. But for the most part, like I said, so when you're in that energy, that's basically what it's representing. So you're spiritually expanding as a spirit. So for the most part, when you understand that, it's a process. It's a process. And then when you're creating a mind state, you're going inside of a form. That's spiritual death, physical birth. Before it's even physical, you're creating a fleshly fluid. That's when you become a ghost. You create a mind, right? So that'd be spiritual death, and physical birth, right? And then anything you go inside of has a starting point, has an expiration date. The mind condenses and become the flesh, and the flesh age and die. So you get to do that process again. The body going to the world, and the mind going to the atmosphere. And you should be able to do that again, as long as you ain't trapped in the atmosphere with your own particle, your own mind, your own cloud, or whatever the case may be. So that's letting you know you're able to be in that process. So you go inside of a form, information. Then it become inflammation, physical or whatever. So inform, that's a mind. You go inside that form, then once it condenses and become a flesh, it's inflammation. That's why you kind of need inflammation, not too much, not too less, because you'll be dried out and not fluid, right? So that's lack of thought that leads you into physical representations that'll have you ill and dried out inside and stuff like that. So you're getting holes inside your body and stuff that you can't repair. You know what I'm saying? Air pockets and stuff. But for the most part, now when you understand that process as a spirit, you create a mind. Ooh, pardon me, y'all. Ooh, pardon me. Oh, we must be an hour in. But let me finish this, right? So once you understand that process, right, you go beyond the Bible. You understand this is what we all talking about in some way, shape, or form. Is this a masculine thoughts and ideas, condensing, becoming feelings and emotions, and your spirit is inside of that womb now, and that's what we call it a mind. And anytime you want to get out of the mind a little bit, you kind of carve out all the thoughts and feelings that make it an emotion and a feeling, and then make your spirit experience being more light inside of your mind, because you're in the lighter stages. You're not in the stages of all the light awareness condensing and become heavy, and before it get to the process of becoming a fleshly fluid and things of that nature. So a lot of times that's the process that you in as a spirit when you try to say, oh, my spirit is heavy, or my soul is heavy. Let's say you want to say you in a different spiritual space or whatever, or you want to be in a space of another or whatever. You go in another, or I'm in the spirit. You might not know what spirit you in, but you in a space that ain't your own. You took your own little piece of that negative mind that you created out of your own spiritual space, flew it as a spaceship into a space that's unfamiliar to yours, that you try to build familiarity with, because it can help you with your space and your mind state development a lot better. So you get into someone else, another spirit, another space entity. They use some of their characteristics when you experience it, add that substance to your substance awareness, and it allows you to feel like you're going better in a direction, or going in the same direction as that spirit in a space or whatever. So that's when you saying I'm in the spirit and stuff like that. That's how you describe it on that level. See what I'm saying? So for the most part, for people who might be religious or however the case, or don't know how to look at things from a spiritual lens, that's how you see it from that. Now there's people who started to actually try to play out and be Adam and be Eve and be Cain and be Abel and stuff like that. But these are things we are experiencing as an individual, because you're hearing it as how it's supposed to be taught, right? You know what I'm saying? These we talk about talking donkeys and talking animals. We're talking about characteristics, the animal will. You know what I'm saying? Where the great grandma and the grandfather rule and stuff like that. But when we start to talk about the energies of knowing how to be a farmer, or whatever the case may be, or harvest these things, esoteric. You know, this is how, even when we talk about Jesus in the Bible, right? It's actually talking about when the colony of Virginia was coming over here, and they was hungry, and they got fed by a whale. I forgot what Native American chopped up the whale, or whatever the case may be, to feed her. That was the fish. The fish was a whale, or whatever the case, that was chopped up or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They just be switching names around and stuff. But at the same time, when we look at just the process of the spirit emanating, once it emanates, that's masculine. Those are thoughts and feelings. So for the most part, once it condenses, it become a mind, emotions, and then that's the ghost. That's the Holy Ghost, right? That's you being amongst the holy ones. That's your holy body. You know what I'm saying? That's your light body. The body you got in a lighter form. Not light as in photons and protons and things of that nature. Light in weight. All the thoughts and feelings ain't together to become heavy before it reaches the process of producing to become fleshly fluid to be born. You see what I'm saying? And blood. When you produce blood and adrenaline, you're giving birth. And you're giving birth to different bacteria and parasites. So your blood cells and things of that nature. So that's how you make sense out of the ghost, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of y'all be dealing with mind bodies that's trying to get born, or in the realm of its own that been there and done that and already took your form multiple times, and the spirit in it is too big to take these type of experiences again. So you are absorbed in its space. Your spiritual space is absorbed in its space. And you have so much similar thoughts and feelings, yet you're smaller. You're in a spiritual whirlpool, like a whirlpool. So you're sucked in those characteristics, and it play out in your actual life as you not being able to shake certain thoughts that you dislike, if they're thoughts that's disliking thoughts. It's positive attributes too. There's things that you don't shake, but you don't look at it like you want to shake it anyway, because it's leading into positive stuff in your life. You know what I'm saying? But this is where you're in like a whirlpool, right? And if you don't catch yourself, you could be in that thing's hell. And that thing ain't being born in this existence, well, in this type of formation, this world, because we all share the same existence, but we all in different worlds. Got our worlds, human world. The mind is the world. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, you share a world with other individuals if you in similar areas. And then that spans out geographically too. So for the most part, if you share similar mind states, and similar organs to humans. Humans' spirit was in a pocket. Because I know they like to tell y'all y'all come from monkeys or something. You was here longer than monkeys. You don't have anything to do with monkeys. You know what I'm saying? You got your own creation. Spirits creating the mind in y'all spiritual pocket. Evolution. The mind evolving as y'all doing y'all washing machine cycle, portaling each other inside and out of each other, creating all the organs and stuff and things of that nature. Then evolution. It becoming to where it's at now. So it's creation, mutation, evolution. We create the mind. It starts to mutate once we sharing our minds and you making multiple minds, and then they start to evolve because it's getting bigger. So this is where size come from, right? So there's no such thing as energy can't be created or destroyed or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Energy is always being created, or there will be no such thing as different sizes, different levels, different velocity, volume, and mass, right? So you can have a bigger thought form than someone. So you got more ideas and more things to work with than someone else that play out physically too. But as a spiritual situation, all spiritual root races in it, I know that I hate that word because Madame Kablisky, but for the most part, the spirits that share the same spiritual existent pocket start to develop and build each other's mind together as you built your own mind. And Teamwork Makes the Dream Work, all y'all minds is connected together. And then for the most part, it's condensed and it becomes similar organs too, beyond the little root pockets y'all in, to become family and friends and geographical location shared base spiritual beings, right? And animals that's smaller in spirit do the same thing. They come after, right? So they didn't have as many experiences, so they didn't know how to develop the memory factor as much, so they're not going to have as many organ functions and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So you have to look at it like that. Mental stimuli builds stimulal organs and things of that nature, and sentience and stuff. So when a spirit experience and start to develop more experiences and that awareness, it built familiarity. So we could go to that space and build something like that same substance, but just a different form of it, because it'll be a different time frame. You're doing something again, or you're doing something for the first time in that same space. So same day, different experience, or different experience, same day type of quality, or whatever the case. So when a spirit learn how to do that multiple times, this how you're able to develop more when it condenses and become organs. When you're in this washing machine cycle, right, you're becoming more evolved species or whatever. So you got more of a know-how because the stimuli. I mean, what builds stimuli? I forget the tension span. Tension span builds stimuli. So when a spirit is experiencing for long periods of time, that's a tension span. And this is what we're calling esoteric memory. So you just know how to create what we're calling memory, not holding on to memories. So you understand it's an ability, just like the thought is an ability, not something you do with the ability and you cling on to it because you call it the same name. You see what I'm saying? So you like, oh, the thing is I have to remember. So now you start doing it in organ implosion way. Remember all your memories. No, it's just an ability. You have the ability to remember. So it's a technique. Your spirit go to that spiritual space and develop a similar awareness like the previous awareness. So for the most part, now you separated from being lost in what you're calling a memory and knowing that you have an ability called I can obtain thought forms. Once you understand that, now you know, oh, this is how I'm making something, and go back in it and create other thoughts and feelings so it can condense and become a familiarity, and it can become a replica, and now it's an organ. And now if I know other people got that similar type of structure, they're just doing it in their own way. There is no other way that we're doing this but that, or whatever the case may be. So tension span is what's developing to become organs and stimuli. And stimuli is stimulating the organs. So it's letting you know organs come from stimuli, and stimuli come from tension span, and tension span come from harnessing. And harnessing, what are you harnessing? Thought forms. And if you don't get lost, because you could call harnessing a thought form a memory, and then think you're supposed to develop a technique. Here's organ implosion, doing something that you already did to do something new, to do what you already created this body for. And this is where you get confused. Thought your soul was the mind. Thought your spirit was the mind. It's tricky. It's real tricky, but you got to have this type of knowledge and stuff like that if you want to create better cycles when you come back and you ain't got so many insecurities or things that you don't like about yourself and stuff like that, and you got better attributes about things, because that's all truly what we're trying to do. And that's the only thing which you're mad and upset about when someone else maybe in you quote unquote in a better position than you in this lifetime, whatever you're holding that up to be, or whatever the case may be, because we're reflecting each other. But really, as a spirit, we're learning how to harness. So you know you was here longer than another species if your comprehension is more sufficient. So if your comprehension is more sufficient than a monkey, you don't come from monkeys. You was here longer than a monkey. And monkeys don't come from you because they don't got your attributes. You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand that. Y'all too lost in colorism and phenotype and stuff like and the wrong aspect of it, or whatever the case. You know what I'm saying? So y'all would think that you come from something because you look similar to something or whatever. But if that's the case, when you peel back layers and peel back the body, all y'all got brains, so and hearts. So now what? Do y'all all come from a thing that looked like a brain? Is that the ancestor? Something that was floating around or walking around as a brain first? But it's like any other species. Because last time I checked, a fish is what technically a brain is. You know what I'm saying? Your brain is a collection of like fallopian tubes. That's a fish. Your brain is like a gill. So the fluids in your brain is one of the first, all your first areas of producing fluids and stuff like that, right, is your spirit emanating thoughts and feelings and condensing and becoming the first liquidly clear fluids before they start to condense and do the same thing how the mind was doing so it become start to color. Then it get blue, then it get red, right? So your brain is in fluid. You know what I'm saying? But you're creating the fluid. So your brain is a fish. That's why they call fish brain food. You see what I'm saying? That's the actual science behind it. Your brain is a fish. Your heart is like a fish too. Anything inside your body is things that is like they act as gills. They got gills. You know what I'm saying? So when you peel back the layers before you evolved, right, that lets you know what your lineage was doing. Everything was sea creatures first, right? And by you being an air being, last time I checked, air condense, light condense, cloud, air condense, rain. Last time I checked, you're still inside of water. You're just expanding into your level of awareness. So you make the organs sufficient for that level of awareness. So when a spirit creates the first body, the mind, that condense and become the organ. And teamwork makes the dream work. That's the environment and the atmosphere. The mind and the physical body, us teamwork makes the dream work, all of our stuff together, and what we feed off of to experience it physically or whatever. So when a group of spirits do that so much, we start to evolve and get other attributes and stuff like that. So you came out the water, but out the air, you get ready to go into light, and out the light, you get ready to go into just understanding it's just the process. You're just doing that, and you're creating more better versions. Your space create a light, water, air, and organ. You know what I'm saying? And you get to create better versions. So we're all creating a spring, summer, fall, winter concept with each other. So it's really like spring and summer kind of like one thing, and fall and winter kind of like one thing. But at the same time, you have to understand it's just a transition. And then we experiencing it in different levels and stuff like that. So you don't come from monkeys or whatever. So you have to understand that. You come from your spiritual lineage. So comprehension come from experiences. You just come from a spiritual race of beings that was here longer than monkeys. You know what I'm saying? The spiritual fleshly beings that's in the experience of the mental body, right? Same way you evolved past this cadensity. So they was here longer than you, or whatever the case may be, right? So that's why you're dealing with you not having a perfect mind, but the mental world or whatever. So you have to look at that as Atmos DAP. This is your next body. Right, a lot of y'all get born again, and we all get born again. But for the most part, your next body is the Atmos DAP one. And if there's not a lot of species to make that physically organ yet, you get born back here, but with more of those gadgets, mental bodies. And it just play out as comprehension, technique, new ideas. That's not always based on technology. Ideas that's based on eat, fucking, and sleeping, and see, hear, sight, feel, those qualities better. Your comprehension, street smart qualities better. And then that's what's evolving us, because those mind states was condensing and becoming a physical flesh. And when you come back and have sex with these ideas and do these things, eventually we start to become that type of thing, and we create the organ to represent that part of the existence, because we all share the existence, just different worlds, different minds that condense into different ways of the organs. Lighter organs to heavy organs, and the lightest organ is the mind. So you have to look at the mind like an organ. This is why y'all don't believe in the spirit world, because we all spirits, individual spirit souls, and all of our first body is the mind, and that's the lightest layer. You just don't think that's, but you experience it every day, and you try to fight against it if you're an atheist or something. But atheist and theism, that's made up stuff too. That's a made up dichotomy. Y'all don't need to get lost in that type of aspect of stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's lost dichotomies and stuff. You already know that you are experiencing your spiritual space and what you want in and out of your spiritual space and things of that nature. And you already know, for the most part, it start with your thoughts and feelings. So it's your space, and your spirit is just the observer. If you like that word better, then you're just the observer, and you observe when you need work done, getting things out of that space and fulfilling it with other things you want in that space. And you know that ain't nothing else but thoughts and feelings, right? And there ain't no scientific method to help you with that. That you only, not even a psychologist, right? The spirit is all everybody's own responsibility to take care of that. And when you're around people that's truly lost, they need assistance with that. And sometimes these become more problems than necessary. So these be like, it play out in your life like people, even people you care about sometimes, that you just got to get out your life for a second. You need some space or whatever the case may be. Because really what your spirit is saying, this spirit needs to develop something on their own, that I developed something on my own, that really we can't point to physically, but we all spirits, and we internally know this. We just don't got no words to explain it amongst each other, and this is how it got to play out physically. And we trying the best we can based upon how we're explaining it, or how we're lack of explaining it, based upon how the situation is playing out. Even if it's a bridge burning situation, each party know. One know the other spirit got to get themselves together. In the spirit world, their first body, their mind is all over the place, or whatever the case, and they got to get that together. And then the other one know that, oh, this person don't want to give me the assistance right now, until they eventually know that they're being a bad person or whatever. AKA, as a spirit, they're being bad to their personifications and bringing it around others, fucking other people's life up. And I love all y'all from the bottom of my heart. Flavor, but you know, for sure. You know, I listen to the Mind on Terry's Moon. I'm the Royal Archangel Uriel. Never the care God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. Erecta Swahil, hold that yo. Massasoit. Mama na toy. Masasake.